Unicoin, Saffron Coin, and BTC Exchange, come on up. We're going to have a panel. So Sunny, Ray, Mohammed Rashan, and Horia Vuskan. Are you all in here? Yeah. I see Sunny. Who else? So let's see. Yeah, I'll give you guys a couple seconds to. We got all three of you, or who are we missing? Come on up. BTC Exchange was. I thought it might be somebody else coming from BTC Exchange. BTC XPay. Okay. There's a neat idea of a thing that the Bitcoin Association is doing soon. I'll tell you about in a second. I'll give people just a couple seconds. These people out in the hall. Any questions or anything while we wait about a minute or so? Anybody? You have a question? No? Okay. So our next panel is, you saw Sunny yesterday, so you have some, I guess everybody in this space is a startup, right? Let's see. I wonder if we should, give me a second here to see if our other speaker, there was, the last two items on the agenda, we tried to make them kind of fluid. We wanted to, because there was some speakers we weren't sure about whether they would make it. So that was one thing we did with this second to last panel. And then for the final item, we have that was cool. For the final item, we have kind of the least structured, the question and answer session. I'm going to moderate it, but basically that's kind of a catch-all because there are some very good people like AJ and our friends from Nigeria who are compliance experts. People that it would be good to hear from them for a minute or so on on this stuff. So I guess we could go ahead and get started. So excuse us for the schedule being a little off, and the last couple sessions, like I said, are not quite as structured as we could be. But so basically, why don't I give each of you guys a chance to tell everybody who you are, what you're doing, kind of quick recap, and then we can get into some Q&A with the audience and so on. If that's good, go ahead.
Hey guys, great to be here. So I'm Roshan. I'm the chief scientist at Unocoin and also the creator of a proof-of-work multi-algorithm currency known as Saffron Coin. So the first time I heard of Bitcoin was about a year ago. More as an investment point of view, I was more fascinated by the technology involved behind it. Then I dug to the code, I understood the protocol, and I felt like this is something different. Many of you would have missed the internet boom back in the 90s. So I felt like life has given a second chance. So let's enter Bitcoin as early as possible. Then I started Saffron Coin in April. It is a proof-of-work multi-algorithm currency, so you can mine it with laptops and ASICs, graphics cards. Normally the Bitcoin protocol, which uses the hashing algorithm of SHA-256, you can't target many other miners across the globe. So that was my mission of starting Saffron Coin. Then another protocol that pretty much interested me was the counterparty protocol. I feel it is a bit overlooked, but I feel like in 2015, the talk would mostly be on side chains and decentralized asset currencies and exchanges. So I believe like asset currencies are certainly going to kick off. Then I started working on the Turing complete, something like what Ethereum is doing to enable cross-chain communication. So you can send cryptocurrencies from one blockchain to a different blockchain, and it's like a decentralized escrow. The code itself will create the conversions for you. Then I ended up joining Unocoin about a month ago. So we work on creating the tech behind it, and decentralized applications, and same as kind of feature using Coinapult. So we're really working to work together on all that.
Hello. Is this working? No. Hello?
Press the button.
There we go. Hello. Yeah, so my name is Sunny. I did a presentation yesterday, so I won't bore you with my story again, but just long story short, I got obsessed with Bitcoin a couple years ago. I'm an electrical engineer. I've been doing business development mostly for the last 10 years, and yeah, I've always been really interested in doing things that will help everybody on Earth. And I think when I first discovered Bitcoin, It just seemed like the solution to all these like systemic problems in the world. And so, yeah, so I'm looking forward to this discussion.
These go off automatically. Both of you have gone through iterations of what you're doing, how you're doing it, where you're doing it with in this space, which is very common, I think, in a space like this, and there isn't any space quite like this, but people have to adapt. You know, one of our sponsors, BitOasis, has adapted and changed their model a couple times. It's even Circle originally. I know Garrett has mentioned this, and I was talking with Jeremy, the CEO. He mentioned, you know, when they first were in the space, they knew first they wanted to do something in Bitcoin, and then it was a matter of figuring out what it was. And because of the credentials of the founders, they were able to get a lot of capital. And right around then, the plan, if you were to look at the business plan that got them the capital, it's probably was different than what was a couple months after implementation, and different from now. Originally, they were looking at, probably, and I don't want to quote their exact plans, but from what I understand, they were looking at kind of going against, head-to-head against BitPay kind of thing. And now that's really not the case. It's a different type of model. So maybe each of you could explain, what are your thoughts as emerging entrepreneurs about how do you decide what to do? How do you decide to shift gears when you have, if you have kind of one entity and you move to another entity or a company, or you merge, or you change your ideas or your focus? In some cases, that's a very, very good idea. In some cases, it's not a great idea. How do you decide when you do that, and what kind of things have you thought about in your own process and journey?
Yeah, so my first step was a couple years ago when I moved to Bangalore. I didn't really have any friends, so I thought I'd want to make friends with people who were like-minded, and so we started the India Bitcoin meetup group, and that really became kind of the place where we started tinkering. And so we just started trying everything. We started building wallets. We started building. We raised about 1,000 Bitcoins and did some Bitcoin mining. We built a Bitcoin mining rig. I remember we literally flew people around the world to pick up Avalons from New York and all over the place. And then we failed miserably at most of those initiatives. We lost money, and then through trial and error. In fact, it was David Johnston who was the guy who kind of inspired us to look at this concept of which is what UnoCoin is today, this buy-sell trading platform. And then, like I said, through trial and error, we finally came to a business model that started making a lot of sense. And because our meetup group started growing, we started getting 40, 50 people, eventually 100 people to these meetups. We had people to ask in terms of what they felt was most needed, and the big pain point was it was very difficult to buy and sell Bitcoin in India. And so we decided to solve that problem, and like I mentioned, Satvik, he's the CEO of UnoCoin, and he built an interface that was really easy to use. And like I mentioned yesterday, one of our unique insights was that we realized that at least trying our best to try and create what AML and KYC might look like, and kind of removing the existential threat of Bitcoin, but then again, at the same time, being able to offer people a way to buy and sell Bitcoin was really our goal. And so that was what ended up working out.
Great.
So, like last year, when I first started about, my first got into Bitcoin in December. Okay, so the first thing I went on, I just was interested in how do I get Bitcoins in India. I never heard of UnoCoin by then. So I was like, okay, fine, I need Bitcoins. And then I came across, that was when I came across UnoCoin. Then I read an article about a raid by the RBI, the UnoCoin office, where they had to close their operations for about 2 days. And then I called the founder of UnoCoin. I called Satvik up. Then I asked him, is this problem? I want to make an account in UnoCoin. I want to get Bitcoin. So what's the issues with the government? And he just told me the RBI does not have a clear stance on it. So they're just saying we don't know, we don't understand it. You just need to have all the regulations in place. Once they're done, that's all that matters. So then I met Satvik. Then I attended a meetup group in Bangalore in about June. That's how I got to know each other. That's how I met the team, and it was a very exciting team. We have developed a platform. There's no other exchange as big as this in India. So it is a very easy way. Like when I first started, I don't know any place where to go. So this exchange is the one that actually, it's a simple interface where you connect the normal buyers of Bitcoin to the exchange itself.
Okay. How many people here have been to meetups? Okay. A little more than half. What would you say are now you've both been to the same meetups and different meetups, I take it? What do you say are the ingredients to a successful meetup, and what would you do to advise people who might want to set up a meetup?
Yeah, so, oh, hello? So I was one of the first guys who started the meetups in India. And in fact, we saw what was happening around the world in places like Toronto and New York and Palo Alto, and we started noticing that a lot of people would, you can get a lot of information about Bitcoin online, but it's different when you can sit across from another human being and actually have them explain it to you, and you can ask questions. And so when we first started doing meetups, we started doing them anywhere and everywhere. We started doing them in coffee shops, and but then, very quickly we started kind of filling up the coffee shops. And so one of the things we started doing is we started getting space in the nicest hotels in the country. I mean, in the city. So we'd go to like a 5-star hotel, and we'd just invite people there, and then people would come out. And our main purpose was just to educate people, and we were just really passionate about it. So we just tried our best to, just to create an environment where we could answer people's questions. And then as things grew, we started formalizing them a little bit more, and we started doing presentations at these meetups, and eventually these meetups grew to such a large extent that we decided last year to throw a conference called the Global Bitcoin Conference, and then that was kind of like the point where we ended up throwing a big conference. We had about 200 people attend, and yeah, so those are some of the things that we did. And now our meetup group in Bangalore has close to 800 members. We also started another meetup in Bombay, which has about 400 members. And I guess there's no real secret. It's just do it.
The first meetup I attended in Bangalore was in June. So we used to arrange meetups in our own office. So what I saw there and now is like it's a big difference. First, you used to get a lot of investment kind of people from the government, regulations, asking tons of questions. And then you'll also get people from the technical background. So the curiosity of Bitcoin has actually struck the Indians. It's not that big. India is a huge market. So you get a lot of people that are also anti-Bitcoin, some kind of trolls. They also turn up on meetups. So it depends like how well we actually educate them on that. One area where we're lacking for investment point of view is the merchant gateways. So that is something that we're working on right now, because that's a question that comes up in our meetups a lot. Like people are like, okay, fine. The Indian mentality normally is like, okay, fine, I have some Bitcoins right now. I want to buy some. So when do I sell them? So this is the kind of mentality that we are looking to change. In India, we need to set up more stores, more gateway services, websites, where Indians can actually use Bitcoin somewhere.
Yeah, you know what we'll do, actually, because both of these folks are going to be around just on the very next panel for the speaker questions. So we're going to hold off on questions. And what I want to do, because we were a little late, I want to give people an opportunity to grab a snack before those are taken away, and then come back for the next session. So what we'll do, if it's all right with you guys, I'll ask one more question. We'll take a break for a minute, come back. You guys will come back up here. Other speakers, we won't have room for everybody, but we'll have the mic, and then we can do the quick Q&A then. That way people won't miss this, and we'll have more people back in here for the last session, if that's cool. But the one other questions that I had was, as you think about these, it was interesting when I think a lot of people go through the journey that you mentioned, Sunny, which is looking at all of these different things in Bitcoin. I think not so much now because mining's so hard, but early on, I remember my very first time I was exposed to Bitcoin, I said, well, I've got to mine. And a lot of people still say that. And I say, no, not unless you're very prepared to invest a lot. But my first thought was to buy a Butterfly Labs rig. And luckily I didn't. I might still be waiting for it. But but there's a lot of ideas, and because this is so early, you have a lot of things being kind of thrown out there. I have some ideas. I'm very interested in paper wallets, and I have a lot of ideas around them, but I've never been able to figure out a way to monetize them. Whereas some things, there are a lot of people who've made a name for themselves in this space by doing things that aren't for profit, and it was funny. There was something involved with this conference. We put out a press release and said anybody who's a PR expert who wants to look at this press release. And one professional was very, very offended that we were kind of asking for free work. And then 4 or 5 people who were very professional people from within the space said, well, that's the way things work in this space. You build a name for yourself. So a whole bunch of people collaborated. I said, man, a press release is very trivial compared to some of the super complex projects on GitHub that people are doing lots of free work on. So my question is, how do you kind of think about, when does it make sense to do free work and experimental work, and when do you have to say, well, wait a minute, I got to earn some real revenue here, and and that goes hand in hand with the challenge that there are not a lot of clear opportunities where you can say, yes, I'm going to create Circle tomorrow and I will make money. I mean, even Circle, as large and stable as they are, it's not 100% certainty. I think it's extremely likely they're going to be very successful and profitable, but it still is a question mark. And for startups, it's an even bigger question mark. So how do you deal with those kind of things in thinking about people entering the space about where to spend your time?
So your question was, how do you monetize around different ideas? So like I said, we just tried different things, and eventually, I think it's mainly about serving a need, right? And so, for example, in India, there was no easy kind of seamless way to buy and sell Bitcoin. So, and that was a problem that existed for us. So I think the best way to find business opportunities is just to scratch your own itch. But just with respect to cold wallets, so for example, on UnoCoin, you can go on there and you can, we have a service that allows you to print paper wallets, and so you can move your funds over there. But we don't necessarily try and charge people to do that. We have a very clear business model. We charge people when they go between fiat and Bitcoin. And then all these other services are kind of like just value-add services on top of it. But just the last piece I wanted to mention is that I think one of our insights was also that offering people a wallet is a nice idea, because that's kind of the cornerstone behind Bitcoin, in the sense that if you want Bitcoin, you have to hold it somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so once you control the wallet, you can figure out different ways of monetizing around that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else to add? All right, great. Well, sorry to break your session in half, but I think that'll be be good for people to grab some stuff before it's gone, and then so we'll just break now, and then we're actually back on schedule with that. That's another nice benefit. If we take a quick break now, we'll come back, call it 25, 30 minutes, take a break, and then we'll close. So please, when keep an eye out, and when we round everybody up, come on back in, because this will be the last thing. You don't want to miss the very last closing. We'll have our kind of, which will be a very good one, because we're going to have a real cornucopia of ideas. We're going to have the Q&A for these gentlemen, and we'll also have some other people who didn't have a chance to speak, other kind of sort of honorary panelists like AJ from Thompson, and other people who we're gonna interact with. So that should be hopefully one of the best sessions, and we can close out with that. So go ahead, take a break now for 25 minutes or so. Come on back. We'll do our closing session, and then we'll head on over to the Warwick. Thanks.